Getting a nice looking image often has very little to do with the actual camera you're using, but is way more dependent on the lighting solution you have. So today I'm gonna walk you through how I go from lighting that looks like this to something that looks like this. And believe it or not, it's much more simple than what you're expecting. In the video today I'll show you both a simple lighting solution and a more advanced lighting solution for filming these kind of sit down and talk directly to the camera shots, better known as A-roll. I'll then end it with a little bit of some color correcting and color grading, so you'll know how to do some basic stuff to make the image pop even more. Okay, I've now turned off most of my light. First things first, you need to get a soft light of some sort, and it's really important that it has the ability to output 5600 Kelvin, since you're trying to recreate sunlight, just softer. This can be done with a lot of different lights. The most common way is probably to use a huge softbox like the one I have here. But I also know that it requires a lot of space and it can be a bit expensive for a lot of people. So another solution can be a light panel like this key light from Elgato, but this is generally not as versatile since it's often mounted to a table. The next solution, and the one we are going to talk most about in this video, is this Zhiyuns CF100 RGB light stick from Zhiyuns, which is super portable and can output even stronger light than what the Elgato key light can do. Just to be completely transparent, this video is not sponsored by Zhiyuns, but they did send this to me so I could check it out. The Zhiyuns CF100 is great for a budget-friendly setup, while still being extremely powerful and versatile. It can output a temperature from 2700 to 6500 Kelvin at a brightness of 100 watt, so it can get really bright. If you want to use it as your main key light, you should get some sort of stand, tripod, or just something where you can screw it onto. To get the best result as your main key light, you should put on the small white bag that comes with the light. This makes it possible to make the light even softer than what it usually is. How much light you need to get the best result is very dependent on your camera, so you should adjust the brightness till it says 00 in the exposure meter, depending on your camera settings. I record everything in S-Log 3, which is a flat picture profile that requires you to overexpose by 1 to 1.7 stops. So that would be the sweet spot if you record in that picture profile. But in almost any other picture profile, you should just keep it at 00 stops or exposure. And if you just use your phone to record with, then it'll just adjust itself to the lighting, except if you use an app such as the Blackmagic camera app or the Final Cut camera app, where you actually have the ability to manually adjust the settings, just like on a camera. To get the best result with the Zhiyuns CF100 as your main key light, you should adjust it so it sits at a 45-degree angle and simultaneously pointing down at your face. This creates a nice soft light at one side of the face while still making it more 3D because you get a shadow on the other side of the face. The perfect spot would be so that the one cheek would have some light in a triangle right here. If you have that, then it's sitting perfectly. And then you should get a lighting solution that looks like this. Apart from the fact that you can adjust the temperature and brightness of the light, then you also have the ability to adjust HSL, which is hue, saturation and lightness. So you can make some really creative shots simply by changing it to another color entirely. It was actually also how I created this shot from my Start Today and Learn As You Go video. The Zhiyuns CF100 also has some other pretty neat features, because there's also an effects tab where you can use the light tube to recreate a fireplace or a TV, even though there's nothing there. So it can be really smart to have a light tube like this in your arsenal to actually be able to show the story you want to be told. Another thing that's also super nice with a handheld light tube with a grip like this is that it's really easy to explore light painting, which is where you go out at night with your camera and then take a picture where the shutter is open for a long time. You'll then just have to walk in front of the camera and start painting with the light tube. It can create some really unique photos and it can be really quite fun. The only issue you have to be aware of with this light is it will overheat if you have it turned on for too long. This usually happens 30 minutes into being turned on. It'll then start spinning up the fans, so it might get a little noisy for about 1 to 2 minutes until it cools down again. It's of course dependent on the brightness level and the temperature of the room you're in, so sometimes it'll happen 20 minutes into whatever you're doing, and other times it might not happen at all. So if you intend to do long sit-down sessions to film a roll, this might not be the right light for that specific occasion. But up till around 30 minutes, I haven't seen any issues. The light tube weighs under a kilogram and can be used for around 30 minutes on max brightness. But if you turn it down to around 20%, you can use it continuously for about 5.5 hours, which is quite a lot. You'll also most likely not use it at max brightness that often. I at least mostly use it at around 20 to 50%. The light comes with a few attachments, which I almost always have on it, since it's way easier to control the light that way. It has barn doors, which I only have taken off a handful of times, and then it of course has the diffuser cloth you can put on to make the light more soft. You'll also get a storage bag and a USB-C to USB-C cable to charge the light, which usually takes around 3 hours depending on the power brick you're using. The power input limit is 28 watts, so that'll cap the power input a lot. So it doesn't have super fast charging, so be aware of that. Now let's try to create a bit more of an advanced professional looking sit down and talk lighting setup with a few different lights, because this right here becomes quite boring. It's still better than the ceiling lights, but it's quite empty now that I don't have all my ambient light on. So let's turn on a few different lights, and then I'm gonna show you some methods where you can use the CF100 light a little different. And this is the way I mostly use it. The first thing is of course to turn off the ceiling lights and then turn on the softbox at a 45-degree angle, exactly where the CF100 was standing before. Next, I'll turn on the lamp I have sitting on the cabinets here in the back. This will act as our practical light. Then I have a light strip under the sofa as well as above the sofa, so I'm gonna turn them on. And the last piece is to turn on the hanging lights in the background right here. These ones. All of the blue lighting is just ambience lighting to create a nice looking atmosphere, because without it, it'll become quite dull. Now, here is where the Cinepeer CF100 can come in clutch again. Simply because it is so portable. Because now you can use the Cinepeer CF100 either as a fill light or as a motivated light. Let me show you the difference. If I were to use it as a fill light, then I would put on the diffuser and then turn it to 5600 Kelvin. And then I would position it right here on the left side to fill in some of the extremely dark spot that I have on the side of my face. It would have to be at a very low percentage because it's only so it's not pitch black on that side of my face. The other option you could do would be to exaggerate the practical light in the back and thereby make a motivated light. Since we know that the lamp is on the left side of my head, then the light tube should also be at that side. Now we want it to be more sharp, so we'll take off the diffuser. And then we'll close the barn doors a bit so the light only hits the left side of my face. But before mounting it, we'll have to guess what the temperature of the practical light is. And it's usually between 2700 and 3200. So I'm just gonna dial it down to 2700. Like this. And then we can just put it up on this side. And now you have a motivated light right here on the edge of me. That kinda acts like as if the lamp back there actually was hitting me, even though it ain't. This is what a lot of cinematographers do a lot of the time. So the more you can do some motivated lights, the more cinematic your image will become. So now you'll also have a very professional looking image that'll definitely make people stop for a second when they see your video. So having a light tube like this Cinepeer CF100 from Zhiyuns can really level up your lighting setup a lot. And at only $179 it's really a great price for what you get. I'd highly appreciate it if you use my affiliate link in the description below if you're looking to buy one. You can even save 10% on your purchase if you use the code EXTRA at checkout on Zhiyuns site. And if you want to save 10% through the Amazon link below, then you can use this code right here. Thank you in advance. If you're looking to get any of the other things I've shown in the video, you should also be able to find them down below in the description. Yeah, let's get going. The last step to making a great looking image is something a lot of people overlook, and that is to color correct and color grade the footage in an editing software on either your phone or your computer. I'll show you how I would do it in the free PC and Mac editing software DaVinci Resolve. So let me show you quickly how to get a great result. Okay, I'll try to make it as simple and understandable as possible. I've now opened up DaVinci Resolve and gone down to the color tab. This footage is, as mentioned before, shot in S-Log3, so it needs to be corrected to a Rec 709 color space. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a new node, corrector, and put it in between here. CST stands for color space transform, which you're gonna find up in effects. Then you're gonna search for color space transform and drag it over to the clips. Then I'm gonna input the color space which it was shot in, which for this instance is Sony S-Gamut3 Cine. It is S-Log3, if I can find it, right there. Then I'm gonna transfer it over to DaVinci Wide Gamut and choose DaVinci Intermediate. Then at the end, I'll choose color space transform again, drag it over. Then I'll go down and find DaVinci Wide Gamut and find DaVinci Intermediate, and then I'll transfer it over to Rec 709 and to Gamma 2.4. And then it looks rather normal. I can tell that even though I shot at 5600 Kelvin and my light is also at 5600 Kelvin, I can tell that it is a little bit too pink. So I'm gonna introduce a little bit of some green. Make a new node. We'll call this one primaries. And then I'll go down in this section right here, and then I'll choose tint and just introduce a little bit of some green. Not too much. And I also feel like I'm a little bit too pale compared to what my skin actually is. So I'll also up the temperature a little bit. Before, after. Okay, maybe a little bit too much warmth. What I'll then do is that I'll make some curves. So another node, type in curves, and then I'll introduce some contrast. So I'll go down to this curve right here, right around there. So I'll drag down a little bit in the shadows and a little bit up in the highlights. Next up, you gotta go for a certain look in your grade. So in the next node, we'll go for a little bit of a bluish. Again, not too much. And then we'll pull up a little bit in the other direction here. And then you actually have a pretty nice looking image with a lot of pop and a little bit of blue in the shadows. The way I usually do is that I have a LUT pack, which you can find down in the description. So I'll just delete this one. Usually I'll add my LUT right here. And then the one I use usually is Desert Desire. I'll drag that over. And then I'll go to the key. And then I'll drag it down to like around 150-ish. Right there, I think. Right around there. And sometimes, it all depends, but then I'll also add a little bit of some halation and grain. And I'm by no means an expert, so I know there's a lot of different ways and other ways to do it, and people do it so differently from what I do it, right around 200. And then we have introduced some grain as well. And this is the before and after. And then you have a pretty nice looking image, if I do say so myself. But take it with a grain of salt, because as I mentioned before, I'm not a professional colorist, but I just think that adding a little bit of a grade do make a massive difference. Once that's done, you should end up with a very nice looking image that screams professionalism. Oh yeah! If you found this video helpful and want to hear more about tech, photo, video and software, then I'd appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe to my channel down below. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one, I'm out.